All right. Well, welcome everybody to another edition of Learn Photography with Duck. As always, I am your host, Duck, and we're going to see how well we do today since I'm already starting to experience glitches in the matrix. So anyway, what I have in store for you guys today is working up something with a little bit of texture that you can very easily add to some of your photographs. Now, the one that I have in mind is adding kind of like either a fog effect or a smoke effect to some of your images. And there's a wide range of uses that you can create. You can create everything from like a haze to actual billowing smoke. I mentioned before we started the screen, I mentioned Alan, who likes taking pictures of the steampunk people because um, this effect will work very, very well with a lot of the images that you take of people in steampunk costumes because it fits the atmosphere. And oftentimes, I know that they plan a lot of photo shoots in and around steam engines. So
We got one. We
oftentimes,
haven't. We haven't come. We have one coming up on the 27th
oh, cool,
of this
cool.
month
All right,
down in
and
Essex.
cool. Then this is perfect because what I want you to do is keep in mind everything that we go through today when it comes to taking the photos. All right. And I'm sure Alan will attest to this. A lot of the times, those engines are cold, they're not running. So there's really no steam to add to any of the atmosphere. If you want any kind of steam or fog, you have to provide it artificially. You have to bring in a smoke machine, or you got to get very, very lucky when the engines are running. And even then, they don't really produce, what you see in the movies. You see the engine starts off and all of a sudden this just big huge cloud of steam just fills the void and gives it
Not
that very
when not
cinematic.
you can't be close enough to it when the trains do that.
Yeah, exactly.
With
You know,
the train, that billowing smoke that coming out of the engine is great, but by that time all the passengers are inside and there's
yes.
nobody can be on the
Yeah.
platform
Yeah.
while that's happening.
Exactly. So it kind of takes that mystique, out of the image. So hopefully with this technique that you learned today, you'll be able to artificially put it back into your photographs and just elevate it to that next level. Okay? So that's what we're going to do. And for that, we are going to need to create some custom brushes. Okay? I've done in the past. I've done some custom brush uh, sessions, but I just want to go over a bunch of these again with you. All right, so let me switch over to. All right, I've selected a few images. As you can see, I got a few train images here. Oh, actually, let me share so that way you guys aren't squinting. Um, share screen share. There we go. Oh, and I should probably
Recording in progress.
or start recording my backup just in case. Who knows, Actually, is my recording going? Yeah, the recording's going pretty good. Okay. So I've selected a few images to kind of test out the effect that we're going to be going through. But I also have these images. All right. And I created two brushes already, but I'm going to walk you through. And for this, you're going to need to go outside and photograph clouds. All right. Now, uh, just a little segue here. I would suggest every once in a while you get out your camera and take photos of skies. preferably just above the horizon line up, and take a variety of, of different skies, at different times of day, different cloud configurations, after a storm, before a storm, on a bright, puffy cloud day, uh, because you never know. Sometimes you get those images where you say, "Man, the sky just wasn't looking all that great. I need to swap a sky." Well, you go to your library and you'll have skies that you can swap in without having to rely on the clip art that comes with Photoshop for their sky replacement. All right. But anyway, uh, what I did is I went out on a day, as you can see from these images, on a day where the skies were very puffy. Okay. You can see how puffy those clouds are. Okay. And what I did is I looked for these little singular clouds that were by themselves. This one I already processed, right? But and if you can't, just photograph the edges, all right, where you can kind of, oh man, yeah, my Stream Deck's gonna be Jesus. Okay. Yep. All right. So I'm going to apologize now because for some reason, uh, it's just, where are we? Okay. For some reason, it's just creating havoc here. So anyway, let's see if we can get this yellow. Where were we? Oh, this one here. Okay. All right. We can see all these puffy little clouds right over here. Okay, hold on a second. See, I can't even draw. My drawing application is not working properly. All right, hold on one second. Yep, it's not working. Okay. All right, but anyway, all these light wispy edges, we can use that to create a brush. Okay, but if you can find something that is relatively isolated, and if possible, something that is asymmetrical. All right, you don't want something that's too symmetrical, and I'll explain to you why when we start building the brushes. Okay. Obviously, look for something that has a bit of contrast. So when a cloud is being hit by the sun and illuminated, you get, that nice white cloud against the blue background. If you can create that kind of isolation, oh, that's the best. All right. So you can see this one here is, very contrasty. The thing to watch out for is you don't want to have too many hot spots on the clouds. So you got to watch your exposure. All right. So you can see this first one here. It's a little bit too hot right in the center. But then I just changed my exposure and took a second shot, and it was a little bit better. Okay. All right. Let's see. Come on. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to take one of these and create a brush. Okay. And for that, we're going to go to Photoshop. Where's my Photoshop? Photoshop. Okay. Now I'm just going to open up I'm just going to create a new, just 1,000 by 1,000 pixels. Okay. And I have here a brush that I created a long time ago, just to give you an idea. All right. And all it does is that's what this brush does. All right. But I want to explain to you a couple of the things that we need to do in order to create a proper brush. Now, when we create a brush from the cloud, it basically just becomes a stamp. That's how a brush works. All it does is it takes whatever image is creating your brush, and it just creates a stamp. And the way a brush works is as you go along, it just keeps stamping. All right. Every so often, it'll just create another stamp of whatever your thing is. And that's how a brush is done. Now, let me just refresh that. If we want to create some kind of style to the brush, we need to incorporate certain things into the brush, certain actions, certain parameters. Okay. And for that, we're going to go to our brush settings. All right. So when you open up your brushes, if you don't see it, just go to Windows. All right. And make sure brush settings is checked. Okay. And also your brushes. Okay. So make sure those two are checked. All right. And usually you'll find those together in the same panel. Okay, so let me just bring this out here. Okay. And of course, Photoshop comes preloaded with a whole bunch of them, but we're going to make our own. All right. All right. Before we make our own, I just want to go over some of these presets, or not presets, some of these settings that we can create. Okay, so the first one is with the brush tip shape. Okay, this allows you to change the size of the tip of your brush. Okay, and the spacing. All right, so we can have something that's spaced really, really tight, or we can have something that's spaced really far apart. Okay. So all this is pretty simple. Okay. Then we get into the shape dynamics, all right, where we can add a little bit of randomness, all right. And some of the things we'll be looking at is size jitter, so that as it stamps, it's going to give us a variety of different sizes. And then our angle jitter. So as we go along, you'll see that the angle of my brush changes. Now, these two are going to be essential for your cloud or / fog brush, because we don't want just the same cloud being stamped over and over in the same orientation. Okay. So that's some of the things we'll be looking at. Okay. All right. So how do we create a brush? All right, I'm going to leave this open, come back to Lightroom. And what I like to do is I like to prepare my file for these particular brushes a little bit in advance. Now, the way a brush works is kind of like the same technology that's used in masks, where black, whatever is black in the brush is what actually stamps, and whatever is white is transparent. Okay, so keep that in mind. Whatever is black is what actually creates the stamp, and whatever is white is invisible. So that means you have a gradient from black to white with all those shades of gray that are going to give you a variety of transparency. Okay, with 50% gray being 50% transparent. All right. Okay, so let's pick out a cloud. All right, we'll go with we'll go with this first one here. All right, and we're going to bring it into the develop module. And what I want to do is I just want to create a little bit more contrast. Now, we can do this without having to do anything in Lightroom. And what I'll do is I'll show you how to do it in Photoshop without having to do anything. But I just find it a little bit easier prepping it in Lightroom. So what we're going to do is we're just going to boost the contrast a little bit. Okay. And what we want to be aware of is that I don't want to lose any of the brights here. I don't want to lose too much of that detail. So I don't want the white parts of the cloud blowing out. Okay, so be very aware of that as you develop this. All right, so what I'm just going to do a little bit of contrast, maybe bring the exposure down a little bit, bring my highlights up. If not, let's see the whites. Okay, again, I don't want too much of a blowout with the highlights. Okay, so see, just that little bit just boosts the contrast. Okay, now we can stop it here, but what I like to do is I like to go into my color mixer, go to the luminance tab, and then take my blues and darken my blues. Okay, and if I need to, I got to come back and just bring my whites and my highlights up. Okay, and that looks pretty darn good to me. All right. Okay. Once that's done, I'm going to go ahead, right click, edit in Adobe Photoshop, and it's going to open up the file in Photoshop. Okay. Now, if you don't want to go through Lightroom, you can do the same thing. Just open it up in Photoshop and then just go to filter, camera raw filter. All right, get started. And you can do the same pre adjustments here. All right, and then you click OK and it brings it back in and it gets you the same results. Okay, so either way, it's entirely up to you. Okay. Now what we need to do is we need to extract this cloud from the background. Okay. And one of the easiest ways to do this is to go to our channels layer. Okay. So in your layers, all right, the layers tab, you should see a channels tab. Okay. And it'll have the red channel, the green channel, and the blue channel. And what we're going to do is we're just going to basically click on each individual one. Here's my red channel, here's my green channel, and here's my blue channel. All right. And what we're looking for is the channel that gives us the most amount of contrast. Okay. And obviously the blue channel is the least amount because there's a lot of blue in the cloud that kind of makes it blend into that blue of the sky. So this is going to be your least contrasty. It's typically red, all right, for skies. But you can check the green, and in this case, definitely red. And what we're going to do is I'm just going to create a copy, all right? And I'm going to come up to my image, adjustments, levels adjustment. And what I want to do is I just want to take and kind of adjust my level so that I get the most amount of contrast between that cloud and that sky. All right. Again, pay attention to any kind of hot spots in the cloud. Okay. And if you notice, typically, if you take that black point and bring it in till it just hits your histogram, all right, that's going to really, really darken that background nicely without encroaching too much. Okay. Once you're at this point, hit OK. Then with the control key pressed down, command key on your Mac people, we're going to click on our channel. Okay, click on our channel. Okay. And we can come back to layers. Actually, let's see. All right. And at this point, I want to come over to a new document. All right. I'm going to create a new document. Let's see. Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on. Control click and then control copy. I forgot that step. Control copy. Okay. Then we're going to create a new document, and you're limited in size as to what size of a brush you can create in Photoshop, and that's 5,000 by 5,000 pixels, which is huge, huge. And oftentimes you don't need a brush that big. All right, so I have a new document here that's 1,000 by 1,000 pixels. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and invert it. Oh, let's go to layers. Oh, I'm in an artboard. Why am I in an artboard? I don't know why I'm in an artboard. Okay, well, let me go File, New, Clipboard. 1,000 by 1,000. Make sure I got my artboard switched off. Create. There we go. Control Command I. I'm going to go Control V. All right. Which places my cloud. All right. And of course, my cloud is going to be huge. All right. And I'm just going to go ahead and scale it down to fit into my document. Okay. Right there. There you go. Okay. Hit enter. All right. And we have the cloud copied over from here and paste it into this new document. Okay, everybody follow so far? Fairly simple. Just cut and paste. All right, we can get rid of that one. Okay. The thing is, now we need to invert it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and flatten the layers. Control Command E will flatten it, and Control Command I to invert it. And we have an inverted cloud. Now, if we look very carefully, we can see that there's a little bit of clouds over here on the edge. All right. That's pretty much it. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that simply because when I create the brush, I don't want any kind of seam showing. And what's going to happen is, because there's a little bit of clouds there, when it stamps it, it's going to, we're going to see that seam there. Okay, make sense? So I'm going to take a soft round brush. Oops. Oh, for Christ's sakes, this thing's gonna. Where's my desktop? There we go. Brush, soft round brush, white as my foreground color. And I'm just going to go around and make sure that nothing is breaking over and spilling over onto the edge. Okay. I want that cloud to be isolated. There we go. Okay. All right. We have the start of our brush. This is going to be the stamp that creates our brush. Okay. And what we're going to do now is, if I can get this here, there we go. We need to define our brush. So we're going to go to Edit. And about 2/3 down, we're going to see Define Brush Preset. Define Brush Preset. Okay. All right. Let's take a quick second here. Once you learn to make brushes, making your own custom brushes can be slightly addicting. I'll let you know right now. Okay. And you're gonna start creating brushes with, hopefully, create brushes that have a purpose to them. All right, that you create it to solve a particular problem, or create them to give you a unique look that is personal to your own work. Okay, rather than, finding some generic brush online. Okay. Different brushes may have different uses, especially brushes that what I call special effect brushes. Okay. Special effect brushes are those that give a certain look. Like, for example, I've showcased in the past some of the Santa photos that I've done where I add like a magic effect. All right. Those are special effect brushes, and I have a variety of them. Some that add twinkle stars, some that add swooshes, some that add radiating glowing light. Those are all specialty brushes that have a very unique purpose. So when I create those, I want to make sure that, I name them properly. All right. So I have a particular naming convention. And if you look at my brush pack, you're going to see that I have, they start off with a word that's in full bold, or not full bold, all caps. All right. So these are, color. All right. So usually that's what I use when I'm coloring something. I have splatter brushes. Okay. I have stippling brushes. All right. Let's see. And of course, I have some watercolor brushes. All right. And if we get into my Christmas stuff, oh, here, let's cancel that. We get into my Christmas stuff, you'll see here what I mean. Let's bring that up. Twinkle stars, okay. Magic starburst, snowflakes, light starburst, all right. All that kind of stuff, okay. It just helps keep things organized, all right. So now I've already created a couple of smoke brushes. So you can see that I have smoke 01, smoke 02. And then after that, I give it some kind of descriptor that kind of triggers in my memory what it was about that particular brush that I created. All right. So in this case, some of the ones that I created previously, this brush here particularly reminds me of fiberfill. You know, that kind of like what would be in a store in a stuffed toy animal. So I named that brush fiberfill. All right, and then this one here is a big puffy one, so I called it Big Puffy. Okay, so that's just keep yourself organized. All right, so now we're going to go to Edit. All right, Define Brush Preset. Okay, and I'm going to add it to my smoke set, so it's going to be smoke. All right, in all uppercase. All right, this is brush number 3. And I don't know what it is. All right. I haven't figured out what the effect is. I'll probably base it upon what it looks like. I'll add that later. But for now, I'm just going to name it Smoke 03 and hit OK. Okay. And now you can see that I have, let me add a new layer. Actually, let me add a solid color. Okay. New layer above that. Black is my foreground, and there's my brush. Now, I can already see a problem. Okay. And that is right here. Okay. See that flat edge? When I cleaned up the brush, when I cleaned up the cloud, I didn't quite get it there. And that straight edge, whenever I create my brush, that straight edge is going to make the brush look a little weird. So I need to go ahead and clean that up. Okay. So let me go back to my brush. I'm going to get a nice soft round brush. Let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that. Okay. We'll bring this down. White as my foreground color, and I'm just going to paint away from that edge there. Okay. I don't want any flat edges for this particular brush. I want it to be very organic. Okay. All right. So we go Edit, Define Brush Set. Okay. And we're going to call it Smoke 03. All right. Oops. Smoke should be all uppercase. There we go. All right. Smoke 03, hit OK. All right. And now that looks much better. See, there's no flat edges. Okay. All right. Now, if we look down here at the bottom, actually, let me pull this out. Okay. It's created, this is the first one. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete that one because that had that flat edge. All right. And now we have this one, which is Smoke 03, which is the second iteration. Okay. And now if I create a new file, let me go File, New. Let's get something really big, 8 by 10. Okay. We're gonna go. Okay, create. Okay. There's my cloud. Okay. There's my cloud. All right. And now if I brush, you can see, well, that doesn't look very good. All right. So now we need to add some kind of styling to this. Okay. All right. Let me put this back in here. Redock it. All right. And we're going to go to our brush settings. So the first thing I need to do, all right, is increase the spacing. You can see this is just, it's way too close. Okay. So we're going to increase the spacing. All right. And it's by percentage, meaning as the shape travels across, when it gets to a certain position, percentage wise, it's going to drop another one. All right. So here it is at 60%. So when it reaches across about 60% of it, it's going to drop another one. 60%, it's going to drop another one. Okay. That doesn't look too bad to me. Okay. And each one's going to be different. You're going to be playing around with it. Okay. If we go to, let's say, about 200%, okay, you can see that these are way too spaced apart to be effective. All right. So I think for this shape, about 60, let's just type that in, 60%. That works very, very well. All right. But you notice that we're starting to get a repeat pattern because the orientation is all the same. So that's the next thing we're going to do. So let me undo that. All right. And for that, we need to go to the next part, which is our shape dynamics. Shape dynamics. Okay. And the first one is our size jitter. And then we have further down our angle jitter. So we're going to go to our angle jitter. All right. And jitter means that it's going to add some randomness. All right. So I'm just going to go about 50% and let's see what that looks like. All right. And you notice that every time it places a stamp, it's rotating it. And it's going to be a random rotation. Okay. Up to 50% of the angle. All right. So 100% would be 300, 360. 50% would be 180. You know, why they made percentages instead of angles is beyond me. I think angles would have been better. Okay. Since it's an angle jitter. Okay. Me personally, I like to put in 100. Okay. Because that is going to, oops, 100. Let's back this up. All right. Because now it's going to give me 100% rotation, up to 100% rotation. So up to 360. So you can see how random this looks, all using the same cloud pattern. Okay. All right. The next thing we're going to change is our size jitter. All right. The size jitter is, the first stamp is going to be this size. The next one's maybe a little smaller, a little bigger, a little bigger. All right. Every time it places one, it's going to be a slightly different size. Okay. See that? So all this does is adds more variety to your brush. Okay. So now, how much size jitter do you want to add? That is going to be very dependent on the size of your not I'm sorry, not the size, but the design of your cloud. All right. Uh, different, we're dealing with something that is amorphous, and each brush you make is going to be very unique and have its own characteristic. So you're going to have to play around with it and see what works best. Okay, so type in a number, play around with it, kind of like what I'm doing here. All right, see how it builds up. All right, and if it's not doing the effect you want, maybe, try going up. Let's see what 100% does. Yeah, I'm not liking that. So I think maybe 30%. Let's see what 30% does. Oh, that's kind of like that. All right. So 30%. Okay. Roundness jitter. Roundness jitter is kind of like how much it stretches it. All right. So you think of something that's round. All right. With a jitter, it's just going to squash it one way or another. I normally don't use that for these type of brushes because it's not needed. Okay. All right. Next one down is scattering. All right, scattering. So we're going to click on that. And this is another one that's going to allow us to generate some randomness. All right. So as I come along, you notice that everything lines up linearly along that axis. So whatever I draw a line, it's just going to place it along that line. Okay. The scatter is going to allow it to go off that center line. Okay. See how it puts it above and below? Okay. Obviously that's way too much. So let's dial it down. All right. That's still too much. I don't know if I actually need any scatter. Okay. Maybe a little bit of scatter. Okay. Maybe I'll go 40. Okay. The other thing you can do is you can create scatter on both axes. All right. So instead of just, up as you make a swipe horizontally, instead of being up and down, it's going to be front and back as well. So it's going to be along several axes. Okay. And let me back that up. And then count jitter right now, we have it set to 1. So that means every time it goes, it's just going to stamp once. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. You can increase this, all right, so that every time it stamps, all right, here in this case, it stamps 4 times. So every time it stamps, it's actually imprinting 4 variations of that cloud. All right, and you can see it creates a little bit more density really, really quickly. I'm not sure I want to create that kind of density that quickly. So I'm just going to bring that back to 1. I want to be able to have some control over my brush. All right, there are times where you will want it, but for me, not this one. Okay. All right. Texture, we are not going to add any texture because it's already a texture brush. Dual brush is where you take one brush stamp and within that you use a secondary brush stamp. Again, we have a lot of texture with this. We don't need dual brushes. Okay, so the next one is going to be color dynamics. Color dynamics. Okay. And for color dynamics, we can apply foreground background jitter. Okay, so the foreground background jitter is whatever foreground and background colors you choose, it's going to randomize between those two. Okay, so let's do foreground. Let's put all these others to 0 here. Come on, 0, 0, 0, 0. Okay. All right, and you can actually, you know what? Let me do it like this. Let's go with blue and red. Okay. All right, and you can see that it's doing a mix between the two. Okay, and we're getting a little variation of the two colors. Okay. It can get a little bit confusing, so you have to be careful. And this is one of the things about making your own brushes, is that when you build your own, you know what characteristics you've built into it. All right. Rather than, picking up somebody else's brush and trying to figure out what the heck they put into it. Okay. Me personally, very, very, very few brushes will have this two color foreground background jitter. Okay, so I'm going to turn that off. Okay, the other thing that's available here is apply per tip. Okay, so actually let's bring this back up and I'll show you what that means. All right, if we turn that off, and as I go along, you can see that it's just blue. As soon as I lift off and start again, it picks a different color. It's not until I stop, lift off, and start again that it's going to change the colors on me. All right. So every time I lift off and start again, it's going to create a new color or pick a new color. When you have the apply per tip, every time it stamps, it's going to pick a new color. Okay, see that? All right. I'm going to keep the apply per tip because that gives me a lot of randomness. All right, we're going to turn that foreground background off. All right, let's return this back to, there we go. Okay. And what I want to do is play around with maybe the hue jitter. Okay, well, we have black and white, so we're not going to get very much. But if we create something with color, you're going to notice that it's going to create a variation based on whatever color. All right, so whatever color, it's going to select the hues to the left and the right of it on the color wheel and create a variation. So if I decide to go with like a yellow, okay, all right, notice how we have orange on one side and green on the other side. Okay, hit OK. Let's cancel. Let's delete. Oh, cancel. What the heck? You know, delete. All right. White. Okay, there we go. Brush. All right. Notice how we got some green All right, we picked yellow. We're getting some green, and there's probably some orange in there. We're just not really seeing it. Okay. If we increase the jitter, you'll see a little bit more. All right, it's going to go further from that yellow and start picking the colors on either side. Okay, so that's what hue jitter does. Okay. The saturation jitter is similar, all right, but instead of picking hues, it's just going to pick the saturation. It's going to make it more saturated or less saturated. So let's go with a blue, all right, and we can see that. Let's increase this saturation. Okay, we have some very vibrant ones, and then we have some that are, very dull looking. Okay. And then the last one is brightness jitter. All right. It's going to make it either bright or darker, brighter or darker. Okay. All right. So because I want to create something with atmosphere, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to play around with the brightness and the saturation only. And I don't want a lot. So maybe we'll do 10% for saturation and 10% for my brightness. And of course, I'm probably going to just be doing things with black and white anyway. So let's go gray here. All right, we have a little bit of variation. See how we have slightly darker gray, slightly lighter gray. Okay, that looks pretty good for me. Okay, everybody with me so far? All right, and that's pretty much it. The other thing we're going to do is I'm going to create an opacity jitter. All right, up to about 50%. All right, meaning that it's going to add some translucency to it. However, we're going to do something different here. We have a control here. Currently it's off. And what we want to do is, because I'm using a pen, all right, a pen tablet, I'm going to allow the pen pressure to control how much opacity. Okay. All right. So if we go here, let's pen pressure. Meaning that if I press very, very lightly, you can see it's very, very light. And if I press a little bit darker, it comes in darker. All right. So let's go with black. Very, very, very light to very, very dark. All right. So, and that's just with pen pressure. All right. Okay. Now, once you've gone through all this and given your brush the required elements that you want, the required properties, we need to save it again. Okay. So we go all the way down to the bottom. Right here, there's a little plus symbol. We're going to hit that. And we're going to go ahead and give it a new name. I'm going to keep these Smoke 03. And we'll call it, I don't know. It has a lot of texture to it, so we'll call it texture. Okay. And now here you can capture the brush size. All right. I don't like doing this unless I'm creating something that it needs to be a very specific size. uh, if you click on this, what happens is you select your brush, whatever size you saved it as will become the default size. All right. Now you can change it. You can make it bigger. You can make it smaller. All right. But then you go select another brush, work with that for a little bit. You decide I'm going to come back to this brush. Is going to go back to that default size. So now you say, oh man, I had it at a smaller size. I had it, whatever. It changes the size on you, and you're going to be fighting that size change all the time. Okay. So very few brushes will I apply capture brush size. And the same thing goes with include tool settings. All right. So that means, the opacity and flow and all these settings that are not in the brush settings, and also including color. All right. So you can, whatever color swabs you have in the foreground and background colors, it'll save those. So I usually keep those off. All right. And say, okay. All right. And now when we go to our brushes, okay, we'll see down here. Actually, let's pull this out so you guys can see it. I have the original smoke brush that it's just the tip, the stamp, and then this second one here, this is where we applied all our settings. All right, and that now gets saved. So what I'm going to do is I have a special folder already set up. Okay, my smoke brushes. I'm going to take that and bring it up and add it to that. Now, I don't need to keep this one here unless I want to use the same tip and create different effects. You're welcome to do that, but normally, I'll just get rid of it because I don't need that hanging around. Okay? Any questions on how to build a brush? No? Okay. So let's put these brushes to work. Okay. All right. Here we have a race car. Took this at Lime Rock Park. And you can see that, by itself, it's, not that very interesting. I mean, it's a cool little car. It's a nice shot and everything, but the background's a little bit distracting. We got these people way in the background. I try to blur them out as best I can. All right. But let's see if we can create something to kind of get rid of all those. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a duplicate layer, but I want to isolate just the subject, just the race car. So I'm going to go to my object selection tool. All right. I'm going to hover over it, and you can see that Photoshop does a fairly decent job of recognizing what the object is. It looks like some of the struts are not being picked up, but we can add that later if need be. So we give it, oh, it actually did it. When we clicked on it, it actually saw the struts all looks pretty good. Okay. Once I have that selection, I'm going to go ahead, Control Command J to make a duplicate. And all that does is it just isolates it from the background. Okay. That's all it does. Okay. I'm going to create a new blank layer in between those two. All right. So right here, blank layer between the two. I'm going to come over, get my texture brush that I just created, and let's make it a little bit bigger. I'm going to white as my foreground color. All right, and on that blank layer I'm just going to start painting in some of that cloud. All right, so I want to make it look like maybe it's coming from the car. Maybe the car's, just creating this billowing effect. All right, reduce my, well, that's way too hard. All right, let's back that up. Make my brush a little bit bigger. Okay, there we go. And that's it. Before and after. Before and after. Now, depending on what you want to do, you can always play around with the blend modes as well. Soft light gives it more of a kind of like a hazy atmosphere. Okay. Vivid light, pin light, hard. Oh, no, not hard light. Okay. Overlay, it's a little too soft. I kind of like the normal. Okay. All right. And that's pretty much how you use it. Okay. Any questions? All right. So let's get a little bit more creative.
Yeah, that's nice duck. I can see where that would work. Yeah.
And the nice thing is, once you make a few of these, you can use a variety of brushes. Okay, let's see. Oof. Let's go create a new layer. Let's see. All right, that's pretty heavy. So let's go filter, blur, Gaussian blur. All right, let's make that really, all right, and maybe bring the opacity down. There we go. Okay, so we get a little bit of background haze, all right, along with our smoke coming from the car. Okay. And it doesn't have to be, just to the background. We can maybe even do it to the foreground. Okay. Let's bring that. Okay. Boom, 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 boom. It's a little bit too much, I think. So you can get away with a certain amount before it starts looking really, really fake. Okay, so just watch yourself. Easy to get carried away. All right, that looks pretty good. All right, I have this one here. Okay, it works great with portraits. I've already gone and isolated our subject. Okay, and what I want to do is I want to create a little bit of mystery to the image, because right now the background is pretty ugly. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and create a curves adjustment in between the two layers. All right, I want her isolated, all right, above everything else, above the background. All right, and I'm just going to take my highlights and I'm just going to bring it down, and I'm effectively just darkening everything behind her. Okay, so you can see it just darkens everything down. Okay, above that, I'm going to create a new blank layer. Let's find that nice brush. Okay, white as my foreground color. Okay, I can start painting it in. All right. If I want to, we'll give it a little bit of Gaussian blur. All right, probably not as much as previously. All right, maybe about 8, 13. Okay. All right, create a new layer on top. Let's make this a little bit larger. Add some here in the foreground. All right, and we'll go ahead, filter, blur, Gaussian blur. We'll definitely blur that one out a lot more. There you go. Okay. And if at any time you want, you can always create a mask. All right. I'm going to get a nice soft round brush. Let's make that a little smaller. Black is my foreground color, and then just mask out whatever you don't want. Okay. There we go. All right. So foreground, background. Okay. Now, if you want, you could even, let's go crazy. We're going to take a solid color adjustment. Okay. Let's pick a nice teal color. All right. We'll pin it. We'll create a clipping layer. All right. And let's change the blending mode to color. Okay. And of course, you can change the amount by using your opacity, how much influence that color. All right. And at any point, you could always go ahead and change that color to whatever color you want. You know, make it warm, make it cool. Let's keep it to the nice teals. Oh, there we go. Okay. Maybe we'll drop one above this one too. Solid color. We'll go with, there we go. Alter option right in between. Okay, to clip it. And we're going to change to color. And there we go. And shift group before and after. Before and after. So you can see takes an ugly background, and you know, I mean, I liked the photo, I just hated the background, and you can just kind of like eradicate that background and create something. Okay. All right, Alan. Let's see. Here you go. All right. We got our big smoke. Let's create a blank layer. Okay. All right. And this time what we're going to do is I'm just going to take my big puffy one, make it a little bit smaller. All right. Now I have white. Okay. But that's going to look a little bit fake. So what I want to do is we have smoke above here already, right? So what I want to do is I just want to sample some of that color. All right, so I'm going to take alter option, switches over to my little eyedropper. Okay, and I'm just going to sample some of this smoke. Okay, and I'm just going to go ahead and start painting it in here. Okay, and sample maybe the lighter color, sample the darker color, and then just layer it in. There we go. And how about just maybe just a little bit of highlights here. Ooh, maybe that's too much. Let's bring that down. Okay. And if we want, we could even add a little hue saturation. All right, we did a color overlay previously with a solid color. All right, we can do something similar with a hue saturation. We just click on colorize. We'll pick a nice, fairly warm tone. All right, and we'll clip it. Okay, so right here is our the icon to clip it to the layer below. And you can see that it just colorizes that right there, and maybe bring the saturation down a little bit so that it matches. There we go. Okay. And just like that, we've added some atmosphere. Now, we applied it on top. All right. So at any point, if we say, oh, well, it's over a certain area, all right, we can always create a mask. Get ourselves a nice, round brush here. And with black as our foreground color, we can take away from areas where we don't want that smoke to be. Okay, so there we go. Okay, before and after, before and after. Okay. Any questions on any of these techniques?
Oh, that looks good. Yeah, I can see where that could come in handy.
Yeah, and the nice thing about it is, you isolate these on their own layer, okay? Uh, and if you wanted to, if you want smoke like behind people, isolate and cut out the people, bring them on their own layer. That way you can drop the smoke layer behind them, okay, and then add another layer on top of that, and then you just basically layer your smoke effect to make it a little bit more believable. Try rather than trying to manipulate masks and trying to mask out certain areas, mask in certain areas. Sometimes it's just easy to cut out, bring to their own layer, and then slide the smoke effect underneath it. Okay, kind of like what I did with the race car and the girl. Okay, all right. Let's see. All right, here's another car. Okay, what we can do is we can create, let's see, we're gonna take this brush, make it really, really large. There we go.
We'll see the car, Doug.
Oh, sorry. Thanks. Good call. Keep me honest. All right. We're going to sample the color of the existing smoke. All right. And we're just going to start putting it in here. All right. And just creating a little bit more atmosphere than what's already there. All right. And let's add a little bit of white in there. So, okay. Get my eraser tool, nice big round brush, and I'm just going to erase from a little bit of that foreground stuff. All right, then go here, filter, blur, Gaussian blur. Ooh, that's too much. Let's bring it down. So that way it matches the smoke that's already there. Hit OK. There we go. and then before and after. All right, so it just adds a little bit more drama. It didn't take very much, okay? I didn't go, heavy-handed with it, but it's enough to give it, a little bit more flair, okay? No fancy blend effects. Just sample the color, drop it in, and you're good to go, okay? Now, you can use the same brushes to create texture. All right, so let's go back to this girl here. Okay, if we wanted to, we can take, that nice big brush. Let's make a big, brush, large. Okay. We're gonna change that to, let's see, what's gonna work nice. Luminance, no. Soft light, overlay, soft light, screen, lighten, soft light. Okay. Create a mask. Nice soft round brush. Black as my foreground color. And then we'll just remove some from her face. And we have a little bit of texture. Okay. And again, if we want solid color, we'll make it that nice green color. Take that and alter option, create a clipping mask. Change that to soft light, create a clipping mask. Oh, why is it not? Come on. Why is it not clipping? There it is. I was clicking on the wrong part. Okay. Soft light over. Oh, hard light looks pretty good. Okay. Before, after, before, after. Nice little cooling effect. Okay. Adds a little bit of texture. That's it. Nothing fancy. All right. Hopefully that gives you something to play with, especially you, Alan. I want to see some of those steampunk shots with some effects.
All right, it'll be at the end of the month, but yeah, okay. I'll keep that in mind.
Absolutely. All right. In the meantime, go photograph some clouds.
Yes.
All right. Questions, comments, concerns, suggestions. Anybody? No questions? All right. I know it's a lot to take in, but there's tons of tutorials on how to make brushes. So if you got a little lost with my explanation, feel free to hit up the YouTubes or just watch the repeat. Okay.
Yeah. Thanks, Doug.
All right, guys.
Thank you.
That's all I got for you, unless anybody has any other questions on anything else.
Have a nice week.
Nope. All right,
Have a good
guys.
one.
Stay safe. We'll see
Okay.
you next week.
Well.
Have a good one.
All right, guys. Be good.
Bye.
Thank you for watching Learning Photography with Duck. Brought to you in association with Milford Photo, your local full-service camera store. Located in downtown Milford, Connecticut, Milford Photo offers you a personalized shopping experience. From the latest camera gear to printing and framing services. And, of course, educational workshops to teach you the finer aspects of photography. Don't forget to tell them Duck sent you.